When you give a bully your lunch money, it never satisfies them. They just keep coming back for more. And that has really been the theme of Donald Trump's political career. Time after time, CEOs, business leaders, institutions, and even major law firms have bent the knee to him. But it never ends there, except today. Because something different has happened. Donald Trump has been stopped in his tracks. His plans are falling apart, and it all comes thanks to a surprising move from Jimmy Kimmel. Yes, you heard that right. Kimmel has made an announcement that is shaking things up and pushing back against this cycle of capitulation. It's a story that could flip the script in a major way. And before we dive into this breaking update and talk about the role Congressman Eric Swalwell played in leading us here, let me quickly ask, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It really helps support the work we do here. Now, let's get into the Kimmel announcement that has Donald Trump absolutely furious.
Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Of course. The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. And I'll get to AI in a moment, but I'm not going to miss the opportunity to ask my colleagues, the proponents of free speech across the aisle and the champions who sit with me, to condemn in the harshest terms what is happening right now from our administration. The second late-night comedian has been taken off the air because the president did not like a joke. I want to first condemn in the harshest tones the murder of Charlie Kirk. He should be with his family right now. He should be with his children. He should be alive. He had a right to say what he wanted to say to who he wanted to say without any physical violence being brought his way. And Jimmy Kimmel had a right to say what he said, which didn't in any way suggest that somebody in the MAGA world had been responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk. He was just pointing out what folks online were doing as Twitter detectives before any investigation had been completed were saying about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And then he pointed out that Donald Trump, who did not go to Kirk's memorial service at the Kennedy Center over the weekend, when he was asked how he was feeling about the assassination, did not address it, but rather went right to a construction project. And for that, Jimmy Kimmel was taken off the air. That's not who we are. That's what it looks like in China. That's what it looks like in Russia. That can't be what it looks like in America. And the foundation of this, the genesis of this, was the president's FCC chairperson, Brandon Carr, sending a tweet that said, essentially, and giving an interview to a podcaster where he said, essentially, if ABC doesn't want to do this the easy way and suspend Jimmy Kimmel, we will do it the hard way, and it would be government censorship. Maybe I was not loud enough in the past when Republicans spoke out against government censorship, and if that's the case, I will go back and revisit whether I could have been louder. But that does not mean that today Republicans are silent just in an effort to own the libs. If you didn't like cancel culture when you thought it was happening in prior administrations, you certainly can't look at what just happened in our country and accept that that is something we should live with and we should tolerate. So I want to make it clear, there's going to be a Democratic majority in just over a year. And to the FCC chairperson and anyone involved in these dirty deals, get a lawyer and save your records, because you're going to be in this room and you're going to be answering questions about the deals that you struck and who benefited and what the cost was to the American people because that happened.
This is the only language that MAGA understands. You have to intimidate them. You have to lay out the terms of this fight very clearly, and you have to scare them into place. This is a group of people who have been bending the knee to a reality TV show host for a decade now. So if we want them to fall in line, if we want them to listen, you better do so with intimidation. That is the only language that they understand. Good on Eric Swalwell for letting him know we are coming after you with lawsuits, with investigations. There will be hell to pay. And the worst payback right now, of course, is living well, which is what Jimmy Kimmel is doing in this new announcement. Breaking statement on Jimmy Kimmel Live from the Walt Disney Company. The Walt Disney Company issued the following statement today. Last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflammation of a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It is a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We have spent the last days having thoughtful conversation with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. Jimmy Kimmel's show is officially back. And while that's exciting news on its own, what's even more significant is that for the first time during Donald Trump's presidency, someone has stood up and told him no. Now, yes, this came after a disappointing moment where Bob Iger seemed to give in to Trump's pressure. But the important part is what followed, picking himself back up, refusing to let Trump dictate the direction of their work, and making it clear that Trump does not get to control free media in this country. No matter how much he envies leaders like Putin or Orban, America still has the First Amendment, and it's not his to take away. Trying to elevate someone like Charlie Kirk into a so-called civil rights figure is insulting when the true heroes of civil rights were people Kirk often attacked, mocked, or dismissed. That's why this pushback matters so much. And this is exactly the kind of energy we should be bringing to these conversations. The same way Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett has been doing so powerfully.
The president has decided that he wants to shake down people as relates to the First Amendment because he has filed not one lawsuit, not two lawsuits, but he has filed numerous lawsuits. He filed a lawsuit against the New York Times. He filed one against the Wall Street Journal, against CBS, against ABC, against the Des Moines Register. He is doing all of this because he wants to quash any speech that is not appreciative or lauding him, which is pretty much anything that's factual. So let's talk a few facts about these January 6 felons that should still be incarcerated because they went through the process, but because they were doing things on his behalf, of course, he wanted to let them go. So they released more than 1,000 people who participated in the insurrection on this government, many of whom who had previous criminal records, like Mr. Theodore Mendenforth, who was convicted of predatory criminal sexual assault of a child, or Mr. Peter Schwartz, who had 38 prior convictions, including one where he beat his wife by repeatedly punching her and biting her. Trump also pardoned Mr. David Daniel, who was convicted of production and possession of child pornography. Trump also pardoned Mr. Daniel Ball, who, quote, threw an explosive device that detonated upon at least 25 officers during the Capitol riot. He also had a record for, quote, domestic violence by strangulation. I'm not done. Trump also pardoned Mr. Andrew Taki, who sent nudes to an undercover law enforcement officer who was posing as a 15-year-old girl. Mr. Casey Hopkins also received a pardon from Trump, and Mr. Hopkins was convicted of forcible rape. According to court records, he, quote, had forcible intercourse with the victim, choked her to the point of impairing her vision, banged her head into a wall, and urinated into the victim's mouth as he humiliated her. These are the people that he decided to release in the streets of D.C. So if anybody does need to clean up D.C., I would agree it is this man, because he is the one that is causing half the crime that we have. Not only is he participating in the crime, but we know that he instigated the insurrection. And if I did say that I had one issue with the Biden-Harris administration, it is the fact that they did not move forward and make sure that this man was put where he should have been put. Because the last time I checked, as a criminal defense attorney, and Mr. Attorney General, you may have a different experience, but I never had a defendant that had 34 convictions for felonies and did not spend one day in jail. Never in my life. And the last time I checked, the party of law and order is the only one that decided that they would be out of order and decided to nominate someone who was not only indicted but was actually convicted of multiple felonies. That has never happened in this country, and it is a shame that we are dealing with it now, and now he wants to tell y'all how to do your jobs.
Okay.
Let's be clear. Donald Trump has been pushing against free speech since the very start of his administration. And it's worth looking closely at how he tried to make that happen. At first, the tactics looked small and even a little silly, like the Gulf of America episode, where if you didn't use his preferred phrasing, you weren't welcome in the press pool. It sounded ridiculous, and that was the point. If it looked too ridiculous, people would just shrug it off, and the media did. Instead of fighting back, they moved on to the next story. Then came bigger moves. For example, pressure on media companies, saying, if you want a merger approved, you'll need to cancel a show like Stephen Colbert's. That was a one-and-done type of demand. Cancel the show, the deal goes through. But with Jimmy Kimmel, it was different. What Trump and his allies wanted wasn't just a single cancellation. They wanted capitulation. They wanted the show turned into a platform to praise Trump and silence dissent. But here's the thing, that didn't happen. ABC and Kimmel pushed back. They saw the public backlash. They saw their stock price drop. Billions were lost in market value because audiences used their voices. And in the end, it proved that we, not Donald Trump, decide what gets airtime, what survives in the marketplace of ideas, and what doesn't. Trump has spent years crying censorship while trying to control who says what. But it's not working. Not in the stock market, not in the courts, and certainly not in the arena of free speech. He loses often, and that's worth celebrating. This moment is a turning point. It shows that collective action works. Not strongly worded letters, but real pressure, real consequences, and refusing to be silent. This is a chance for a reset, a reminder that we can push back and win. And yes, Jimmy Kimmel's return is part of that. His first monologue back? It was supposed to cover none other than the Epstein files, the very thing that sparked so much controversy when he was pulled off air. And now, people are going to hear it. So let's take this energy forward. Keep using our voices. Keep organizing. Keep supporting platforms that push back. If you've made it this far, drop a blue heart in the comments, hit the like button, and make sure you're subscribed. And until next time, I will see you soon.